So in today's video, I'm going to share 5 goals that I set for myself for my 20s. Now, we might be slightly different, you might have different ideas, but this is a little bit more of a personal video. Now, I know on this channel we generally discuss personal finance and how to create financial independence, but today's video is a little bit different, and I wanted to get more personal on this and kind of share with you some of the things that I set forth for myself, goals not related to finances. And if you pick anything up from this video, if you find any value in it, the only thing I ask is that you consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. So let's get started here and let's talk with one of the first goals that I set for myself. And this is something that I realized maybe 2 years ago that I really wanted to focus on, and that is relationships. And what I mean by this is primarily discussing family and friends and who I kind of associate with in my life. So if you look back in time and you think about families 100 years ago versus today, I think a lot changed. And I think today, I just don't think families are as close as what they used to be. Is that bad? I'm not sure. I think that it's important to have a pretty tight-knit family. And obviously there might be some people clashing in families, and I don't know what your personal situation is, but I know for myself that I hold a pretty high regard for that, for having a pretty close, tight-knit family with not only my immediate family, but with cousins, with second cousins, with aunts, uncles, everyone within my family, I think is really important because, you know, there's different people who might come and go in life. And your friends today might be different from your friends 10 years ago, and 10 years in the future. Things change, people come and go. Even relationships with girlfriends, boyfriends, even sometimes spouses can change over time. But the one thing that really stays constant is the family that you have, your parents, your children, your brothers, your sisters. And so that's something that I just hold a lot of regard for, and I think it's very important to kind of keep a tight-knit family for myself and hopefully in the future. So it's just something that I don't want to lose sight of, and hopefully I don't lose sight of that throughout my 20s. It's just something that I remind myself of very often. And once again, it's not necessarily that you have to do this, and I know people have different situations, but this is just something from my personal position here. Now, even kind of going into this deeper, I really try to keep a pretty close, tight-knit group of friends, so a pretty close inner circle of friends that I can really relate with, people who are positive, who genuinely are looking out for me and care about me personally rather than what kind of value that I can provide them. I mean, you know, I'm not as selfish. And there's going to be few people that I found that genuinely care truly about your well-being. Some of those, hopefully your parents, obviously family, like I said, but even some friends that are very close that you can really, really closely associate with. And that's why I found that, you know, there have been some friends in the past that I don't really talk with anymore because we just kind of lost things in common. We changed and we went separate ways. And I think that's okay to change friends over time, but really kind of keep the ones that really matter to you a lot. And one of the best things that I think people have done for me is sometimes I'll get a call from a friend that I haven't talked to in 4 years, in 5 years since high school, and they just call me out of the blue. And I think that's really nice. I think it's really great to just hear someone's voice that you haven't talked to in 5, 10 years. So maybe this is a challenge, but just pick up the phone and call somebody that you were really close friends with that somehow you just got out of touch. Things happen, life happens, you go separate ways, somebody moves to a different state, and the next thing you know, one of your closest friends, you haven't talked with them in 10 years. So just picking up the phone and calling them or just sending even a message, I think can really kind of go a long way, and suddenly you're back to where you were, best friends again. That's just something that I feels like really, really nice. So that's one of the goals that I set for myself. Now, another goal that I set for myself, and I think I'm kind of going on the right path here, is to focus on having some type of job or occupation or income source that really doesn't feel like work. When you think about how much time people spend working in their lives, if you work from age 20 to age 65, that's going to be 45 years of your life doing a job. And I think one of the worst things is if you wake up every Monday absolutely dreading a job. Now, if you're indifferent about it or if you like work, that's wonderful. I think that's a great position to be in. But if you're in a position where, you know, you wake up and it's a Monday and you absolutely hate going to work, you hate your coworkers, you hate your boss, then I think if you're in your 20s, and look, I'm not one to give life advice. I'm just a random person talking to a camera here. But I think if you're ever going to take risks, I think the time to do it is in your 20s. If you think about it, if you're in your 20s and you don't have a family yet, most people in their early 20s especially might not have a family yet where they have kids and dependents and a spouse, that's kind of probably one of the best times to take risks, because you have very few dependents, you have very few obligations, very few expenses, and so it's one of the best times to do that. If you try to take risks in your 30s or your 40s and you have 5-year-old children, you need to feed your children, you need to take your kids to school, you have many more obligations, and if you're taking a risk when you have young children, you're not only taking a risk for yourself, you're taking a risk for your family. So taking risks and thinking about maybe that dream job that you want, or maybe you want to go back to school, get a master's so you can, maybe you want to go to law school, maybe you want to become a doctor, whatever it is, doing all of that in your 20s to become that, I think is the best time to do it, to take those risks and find a job that you can really find a lot of passion and be happy about. And I'm probably going to say this a couple times in this video, but I can't tell you what's best for you. There might be people who are in a position where they hate their job, but it's the only job that they can have at the moment. It's the only thing that's going to pay the bills, and that's obviously understandable, but kind of finding a way to get to a position where you have a job that's much better, that you enjoy more, that you can wake up and really be passionate about, I think is important. So the next goal that I set for myself might sound a little bit crazy, but that is to read 500 books in the next 10 years. Now that's actually only about a book per week. It's 50 books per year, so about a book per week. And I think this is actually very doable. I've been doing this for quite some time. A lot of the times I will actually simply just listen to books with audiobooks, but even going to my free local library, I love doing that. And I'm actually thinking about picking up a Kindle again. I used to have one of the very old Kindles, like the paper versions of the Kindles, the paper white, I'm not sure what it was called, but it was back in probably 2010 perhaps. I'm thinking about getting another Kindle just so I can read books more often, because I've been doing about a book per week. Sometimes I'll be able to read 2 in a week if I'm sitting on a beach, but if I'm really busy and working with something, or maybe it's the holiday season and I'm just swamped with a lot of different obligations, I might only be able to read a book every other week, but it really averages out to about 50 per year. And so over the next 10 years, hopefully that can be a total of 500 books. Now, kind of going along with this, we're going to categorize this all together here, is that I think that generally speaking, one of the goals, and when I say I want to read 500 books in a year, really kind of what I mean by this is that, sure, I want to read 500 books, but I want to make sure that when I have downtime, instead of trying to fill my time with something that is brainless, sort of vegetative state, just sitting on a couch watching TV, I would rather take that time to build some human capital, to learn something new, whether it's playing guitar or doing something that's really fulfilling, rather than just kind of consuming something that's mindless, like watching movies all the time. Now, I still watch movies from time to time, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're watching, say, 8 episodes of a TV show every single day, binging through 20 seasons of a TV show, that can be a little bit mindless, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's just something that I don't like to do. I like to continuously learn, and so reading 500 books in 10 years is going to significantly increase your human capital and hopefully make you more creative over that 10-year span. So I'm really hoping that in 10 years this pays off. In the year 2030, when I'm 31 years old, hopefully I'll be a little bit smarter than I am now. And so the final goal that I set for myself, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do this until I would say the past 6 to 8 months is when I really started to realize that I wanted to take this more seriously, is to just kind of focus on leaving as little trace as possible. Generally speaking, look, I mean, I think it's good to just be more environmentally friendly. I see no harm in just taking some little things out of my day to leave less of a trace, leave less of an impact on the world. So just simple things, like when I go to the grocery store, by not using like 500 plastic bags, but just bring your own bags, or even just like a backpack. I don't know. There's many things around that. I don't drink bottled water. I think that's a total waste of money, and it's not good for the environment. Obviously, recycle when you have things, but there's just a lot of things that I realized that you can start to do to just become more environmentally friendly, that don't even take up any, that really doesn't affect how you live your life. Just some tiny little changes to be more environmentally friendly, whether that's just like turning off the lights when you leave your house, just simple things such as that. And I'm not perfect. There's plenty of things that I'm still not great with when it comes to environmentally friendly practices. I mean, I fly quite a bit. I travel quite a bit, and obviously that's a big carbon footprint, and I'm going to work on that. And I think, hopefully, an important thing that I think is just important to realize is that just kind of being aware of some things is how you can work towards them. So I'm going to figure that out in the future as well. But like I said, I'm not perfect. It's just something that I'm becoming much more aware of, and hopefully you might want to consider doing that as well. Now there is one more that we can include here, and I already kind of did this. Actually, yes, I did do this, but I'll just show you an example here, and that is by kind of creating a total independence from any type of parent or guardian or somebody that you have. So millennials get a pretty bad rap from pretty much everybody in society. They really get shit on by baby boomers especially, even though the baby boomers are the ones who raised millennials. They're always calling them lazy. I don't want to start the war here of baby boomers versus millennials, but I think in general, yeah, okay, there are a lot of millennials that might be 28 and their parents pay their rent for them, their parents pay their phone bill, their internet, and so just kind of becoming totally independent of anybody else, and then also having the ability to be independent of other people. Now, going back to what I said in the first point about one of my goals was to make sure that I have solid relationships with family and friends. It's also important to have the ability for myself to be totally independent, where I don't need anybody to depend upon, whether that's parents or friends or anybody else. Just kind of being happy with myself and, you know, being able to just hang out with myself here and have no problem with it. So those are some of the goals that I set forth for myself. So if you found any value in this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see everybody in next week's video when we talk about how I actually go through the process of reading a book per week, and I'm going to share some different tips and tricks that I use to do that. So thanks for watching the video, and I'll see everybody in next week's video.